got taken to a specialist on Thursday.
No,
shit.
no.
Yep.
Don't tell me that.
Now, what does that mean?
Oh
His
my
heart's got
gosh.
an irregular beat to it?
I don't even know completely, to be honest with you. But anyways, we're live. Let's do this.
We're live, baby.
Oh yeah.
So JR is known now as the masturbator.
Yeah.
Not a good
He said he was going to show us tell us how to keep bait alive tonight with his tie-dye t-shirt.
Wes, have you heard of a gutter filter?
No.
Well, apparently there's filters that are made to go in gutters, and they make excellent bait tank filters. There's a guy on YouTube that designed. Hang on, let me show you. Let's see.
Y'all gotta go pee-pee?
Oh.
Let's go. You gotta go pee-pee. Let's go.
Ask your healthcare provider about Rebelsis today.
I think you're a weekend fisherman, or you're just going out Friday evening and catching your 20 or 30 bait. I really think a 30-gallon or a 40-gallon tank.
Who's that young fella?
Obviously, if you have the room, the bigger the tank, the better. The more area, the more water, the better your bait will be. You just kind of, if you got a 30-gallon tank, you can only keep X amount of bait. You know, the bigger, the better. But a 30-gallon, one of my 30-gallon tanks really work well.
What a plethora of knowledge in that video.
Where did the gutter filter come in?
At Wells Fargo, direct deposits
Oh,
come up
yeah.
to 2 days early with early payday. What if everything came 2 days early?
Have a good weekend, Mary.
All right now. Have a good weekend. But it's Wednesday.
See you Monday.
Am I missing something? It's the weekend, baby. See you later.
Like getting things 2 days early.
Sorry.
I actually seen Ron Vest this morning. The tackle shop we went to, JR?
Yeah.
You know, the one that we're still waiting on the video. Ron Vest was dropping off 2 30-gallon tanks there this morning.
Nice.
Ron lives about maybe 5 minutes from there. He lives over on Pendleton Road. You know what we're talking about, Pete?
Yeah.
Yeah. He lives about 10 minutes from me.
Pete's done some live bait fishing. Don't let him fool you.
I have in the past. That's right.
Hold it here, baby.
Somebody says y'all have one viewer in your showing Hovis. We actually have 17 viewers right now. You're just not, we're on different pages. We're just not, whoever your Facebook user is, we're just not on the page that you're looking at, which is probably Scott Perry.
Yeah, that's right.
Baby, love you. So, is it easier to keep bait alive in the winter or the summer? That's a dumb question. Which one is it?
Winter, right?
Winter.
Well, let me ask you this about that. Which month or which season is easier to shock your bait? If there's like a temperature difference, are they more sensitive to getting shocked in the summer, or are they more sensitive to getting shocked in the winter?
I think it's both, really.
Yeah. This depends on how big the temperature change is. Let me tell you a quick story. I took some bait up to Todd Asher, and this Billy Davis is in this story. I'm not trying to bring him up. This is just a story about bait. I took 30 trout, and I had them in a 30-gallon Shad Shack, about 10, 12-inch trout, 30 of them. And they lived. They were good. They were lively. I stopped to put ice on them twice. It was June a couple of years ago. It was hot. It was very hot. I think I put 2 bags of ice on them from Greenville to Tennessee. When I got to Billy Davis's house, if I'm guessing, that water was probably 58 to 60 degrees. And I told Billy, I said, is that water in that tank down there? I said, it looks like it would be hot. It's on the side of his house out in the sun. I said, Billy, as soon as I dump this bait in here, it's going to shock the shit out of it. It's probably going to kill it. It's real warm. Oh, no, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. So I called Todd. I said, Todd, he's telling me to put this bait in a bait tank that I guarantee there's probably a 15 to 20 degree difference in the water temperatures.
What was the temperature of the bait tank?
If I had to guess, I would say that water was every bit of 80 degrees. I mean, it was June. It was June. No cover over, nothing. It's just, it was like a, what do we call those, the food tanks, like the food, what do they call them? The food safety, they store.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Those big They usually got like a cage around them. You have to cut
Yeah,
the cage.
that's the same thing. So I said, okay. I knew they wasn't going to live, but I dumped them in there. So Todd called me that next morning. He said, Billy said all that bait died. Well, hell, of course it did. I tried to tell you. You said put it in there. Listen to him, so I put it in there. I said, "Did you get any of the bait?" He said, "Nah." He said, "Billy threw it away." I guarantee you, Billy used that shit for cut bait. But there again, he shocked the shit out of them fish.
Where did the bait come from? Like
Tennessee.
before?
Brevard, North Carolina.
Oh, they were trout.
Yeah.
Also, they come. What was the temp of the water they come out of?
Oh shit, 57, maybe 58 degrees.
So you took them out of 58-degree water and put them in 80-degree water?
Pretty much at his house, yeah. But, Billy knew I was coming. Todd called him, I don't like Billy Davis. He knows I don't like him, but I was doing that as a favor of Todd because Todd didn't have a bait tank.
Wonder how much you would have had to get that closer. So,
Do you see those trout that you dumped in there?
Yeah.
So
Man,
40-degree difference.
Yeah.
I've seen Facebook posts lately of guys getting all excited about, oh, I got this awesome bait tank and my trout stayed alive for 2 days, whatever. I've kept trout alive in a damn 5-gallon bucket with an aerator for a week.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't take much.
Are you talking about Piedmont trout, though, from Piedmont Bait and Tackle?
From way back in the Norman days, whatever I got them. I have no clue. Piedmont.
That's Piedmont.
Perth, I think.
Those trout are like 5 ounces.
I mean, they're small trout, yeah, but I can keep 1.5 dozen, 2 dozen alive. No problem.
They're hardier than other fish.
Some were 8 inches. I mean, they weren't small.
Yeah, but these trout these guys are getting are what, Wes? 3 pounds, 2 pounds, 3 pounds.
Some 15, anywhere from 15 to 18 inches.
They're huge. I mean,
Gotcha.
my goodness, they're gigantic.
Well,
Makes you just want to take them home.
A trout's probably the hardest. A trout, other than an eel's the hardest bait I've ever fished with.
Yeah, and those are really good bait. How do you think those will do for freshwater river stripes? I know guys use them for saltwater, especially up north in the bays and stuff. But I wonder how they would do down here.
I don't know. Me and Shane Howington, we were actually doing it as a cut up post. He wanted me to. I sent him a message so he could put it on the Cheyenne that I made a trip up to Chesapeake Bay, all the way to Chesapeake Bay to get us 60 eels. We were going to kill it in Tennessee, and of course, that didn't happen. But I've always wondered that. Who knows? Chris Hovis and them used to talk about your bait was you're more likely to catch fish on bait that's native to that water, what the fish are used to. But who knows what they'd do with the eel? I don't know. I've never tried one in fresh water. Have you ever heard anything of that, Pete? Or
I have not. No.
You know what's funny to me though is when guys like Chris say that, and you hear it all the time. But you got guys out there catching fish on artificials. Nothing.
Let me
There's no
add this
native
real
fish
quick.
there that looks like an artificial.
I remember back in the day, let's say 2002, 3, 4, somewhere thereabouts, where the Lake Norman guys, for some reason, started using bloodworms, and they started wearing the hell out of striper with bloodworms. So, I mean, it's something we bought. It was expensive around here. Like a few shops actually carried bloodworms just to striper fish with around here. And I mean, guys absolutely crushed them with a piece of fucking bloodworm.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes to show that maybe eels might work. Hell, I don't know.
Yep, I remember that. You don't really hear that much about the bloodworms anymore, like you used to on
You
Lake
don't.
Norman.
But I think a lot of that has to do with the price, honestly, too. $15 for a bag now, or $20 a bag.
The mussels kind of took over.
They did, yeah. And there's no stripers now, anyways. But yeah.
when I went and fished that tournament up in New York with Chuck, he had a worm. They were about $100 and something for like 30 of them, 40 of them. They were like a bloodworm, but they had legs and they had little pinchers on them.
Sand.
Those are bloodworms, right?
No, he called them something.
Sand something.
But they would actually bite you. They had little pinchers, almost like crawdads do, and they were about that big, and they did look like a bloodworm. They were.
Yeah, that's what I got.
Looking worms.
I thought I was buying bloodworms because that's what I used. You just described it. Those legs, those pinchers. I was like, man, I ain't picking that up.
Yeah, I know, right? I was scared. I didn't handle it down.
yeah. Drawing the line on that one. It's like using a centipede for bait.
Yep.
You're listening to the Real Fisherman Podcast. Be sure.
I was trying to find something here, but I can't find it.
Damn, Wes, screwing everything up.
But anyway, yeah, I don't know. I'd like to try it. I think there's a company that you can actually purchase them from, and they will ship them to you live. I had that information a couple of years ago, but I never did follow up on it. I can't find what I'm looking for. But anyway, have you ever pulled eels in freshwater, Pete?
Freshwater, no.
Is there any eels in our lakes?
I don't think so. No,
I've never caught one. I don't think there are, but I know guys that swear on their mama that there are, that they've caught them out of it, like Wiley, for example. Scott
Perry wants to hear more about Billy Davis.
I don't really want to talk about him, but he was just part of that story about bait.
Am I the only one that gets Scott's humor?
No, I asked Scott.
They were literal. They thought she was being literal, Scott.
Why don't you get the live bait extraordinaire on here as well, Mr. Scott Perry?
I asked Scott, did he want to be on the show tonight, because we were going to talk about bait, because he's got a little knowledge about bait, not a whole lot, but a little bit. He might have could have contributed, but he said no, he was going to watch a movie. So this must be the movie he's watching, The Real Fisherman. He can't stand it. He's just got to watch. I mean, it's, he can't stand it.
So temperature, you think down around 30 feet, from what I read today, it should be about 65 degrees. And that's on the surface temp could be 80 degrees. So you got a pretty big difference there from 65 to 80 degrees. So if a lot of guys will pump their bait tank water. They got a long hose on a bilge pump, and they get down there to the cooler water. They'll fill their tanks up with that cool water, and it might be 60 degrees. And then they put a light out, and they bring bait to their boat, and they go to catch bait. And when they go to put that bait in the tank, they're taking them out of 10 feet of water, and they got too big of a temperature decrease or differentiation there between the lake water temp and the bait tank water temp. So a lot of guys were taking and actually mixing in some of the upper layer of the water, bucketing it in to get the water temp to get somewhere in between that 60 degree mark and that 80 degree mark. They kind of want to buffer some of that out.
In the summer, especially down at Hartwell, I don't know, it's got hot a lot. In the summer, it gets really hot down there. I know a lot of those guys, downlining for herring, by the time they put a herring on, by the time they could get that herring down to 60, 70, 80 feet, he was dead because the water was so hot. And then you're dropping him in that hot water, and as soon as he hits that thermocline and below it, he's dead. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times I've heard guys say they couldn't even get them down fast enough. I've heard them putting 2 ounces of weight on.
That's crazy.
Enough, and they die. They're dead before they even get down there.
That's crazy. I wonder if they could raise their bait tank water. Well, never mind, because they're going through like 80 degree water all the way down to 60 degree water. So the deeper you are, the deeper you're fishing, the longer they're in that, shitty water.
Yeah. So, there again, bait is, I don't know. To me, gizzard, I've just never cared for gizzard shad. A lot of people love them. They swear by them. I think they're slimy. They're fucking nasty. The trouble you have to go through to purge them and keep them alive, I just assume to have a trout. Just my opinion. I think a striper for the most part would hit a trout quicker than they will a gizzard. They're easier to swallow. They're slime. They're more narrow. They don't have to open their mouth. They're just.
Let me ask you this, Wes.
You control them all day too, right?
Exactly. All day long.
So you've gotten out there, you got your bait tank, you've caught some bait, you got a thermometer in your bait tank, and you see that it's 65 degrees, and you're going down to 65 degree water.
Yeah.
So hang on, I got to find out what I was going to ask you here. I had it written down. So how long would you leave your bait down there before you reeled it in to check it to see if it was in shock or not?
You can watch the end of your rod. Most of the time, if your bait's alive, your rod's going to move. you'll have some
Yeah.
kind of, well, depending on how heavy action a rod you got. But most of the time, even with a herring, a big herring, if you got a good sized herring, you get him down there, you just watch your rod. Eventually, he's going to make that right. If that rod's not bumping within a minute or so,
Well,
then
let's say you're
dead.
fishing Lake Murray and you're fishing down around 60 feet deep, and you're using down rods, and let's say you're using 1.5 ounce egg sinker. So you got it on a Carolina rig with like a 5-foot leader and like a 2-aught circle hook, and you got it on a medium light rod. How long? I mean, if you think you'll be able to see the tip as well, then if there's a little wind, the kind of boat's kind of moving. I'm thinking that there are times when the bait can be alive, and you really can't tell by just looking at the rod tip. And that,
well, I think a lot of times, if you're marking fish too, you know they're there, and you're not getting a bite, and you reel it up, and your bait's dead. 9 times out of 10, it's probably because it's dying before it gets there, because in that cold water, those fish, if that bait's alive, and I don't know why, especially striper. I think hybrid, when they go into a feeding frenzy, they're going to hit anything. But a striper, when that bait, when it's dead down there, it's just floating. And look, they won't hit it. They're just going to hit it a lot quicker because it's something they can kill and eat.
Yeah. So let's say you reel it in 15 minutes later, and he's swimming real good. Everything. I mean, he looks really good. So you put him back down. Now you've made it. You've done a test. You know what your bait's doing. So now you can just leave it out there for, half an hour, 45 minutes if you wanted to. And that bait is probably okay because you reeled it in at 15 minutes. But if you don't reel it in 15, 20 minutes after putting it down, you might be sitting there 45 minutes to an hour with a dead bait. So I think you have to run that one test at least so you'll know what's going on.
My biggest problem with herring, and I've noticed this here since I just started back, kind of party fishing, I guess you'd call it. It's the herring getting foul hooked. I've tried. I actually bought a pack of circle hooks, some Gamakatsu 1/0 circle hooks, octopus circle hooks.
Great hooks.
And I don't know. Would I come out better? Are they as likely to foul hook themselves on a circle hook, Pete, as they are a J hook?
No. Ask JR. No.
Oh, okay.
Tell him,
I mean,
Pete.
what's better?
Tell him, Pete. No.
Yeah, I've had the same issue way back when too, but you know what? So ironic you say that. I was going through cleaning my storage unit last week actually, and I found several cases of those Gamakatsu. Those Mutu hooks.
Oh,
yeah.
I picked them up. I'm like, damn, bring back the good old days. So I'm like, I don't know, should I keep them? Whatever, but yeah, I still got them.
But my question is.
But yeah, so I had the hook go right back through into the bait. You talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
What's the best hook? I mean, does it matter? Circle hook, just J hook, or are they gonna get the foul hook themselves either way?
I thought you was talking about foul hooking the dang striper. I didn't know you was talking about where the bait flips around on the hook. Yeah, that happens all the time on circle hooks. My bad.
All the time. Yep. Sure
But
does.
what about J hooks? Is it bad? Is it
I
bad?
think it still does happen with J hook. I think no matter what, it's going to happen.
Well, the least is going to the hook that is going to happen on the least is going to be that big Kale.
That was my next thing with a Kale hook.
That's what Bo Rice and Bucky, all of those guys up there in East Tennessee use those big Kale hooks.
You say big.
It's like this long. It's like probably a 3/0.
Oh no, some of our here, you put a 3/0 hook in their nose, that some bitch will turn upside down.
Yeah. I don't know. It's pretty decent size Kale hook. I mean, I'm sure you could use several sizes. That design helps keep that bait from flipping around and hooking itself.
Yeah.
I hate them.
A hook I was using that I use all around now for flounder fishing and everything else. What's it called? A offset something or other hook. Not a Kale hook, but I got to look it up here. But the last few years I live bait, I use those hooks, and I thought they were pretty damn good.
They got a pretty good gap on them?
Yeah, a wide gap something or another, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Made by Eagle Claw.
And I noticed, though, I have, JR, and I don't know if you've noticed this, it seemed like I have a bigger issue with them foul hooking themselves when I'm downlining more than I do when I'm trolling them or freelining them. It's not as bad to do it when they're freelining as you are when they're downlined.
Well, for me it is. I get it constantly on free. It doesn't matter free line and down rodding.
And probably cut baiting too, right?
That's why it's very important, guys. I get made fun of for doing this, but when I striper fish, and usually a lot of times I'll catch myself like forcing myself not to do it when I'm with someone because, it is kind of anal. But when I'm striper fishing, I am putting my line out like this. I'm not just hitting the free spool button and letting it go. I'm very methodical. And as I'm letting line out, I'm feeling the tension. I'm keeping that bait taut the whole entire time. So I know for a fact he is not going to foul hook himself as long as we do not stop or slow down too slow. But he's going to be fine. And that's the reason you do that. You take your time when you're doing things. Everybody wants to be in a hurry. Everybody wants to get out there and cast and get their baits out and got to get lines in the water. No, that's not the best way, in my opinion.
Jason Penley asked, how do you guys rig stinger hooks on larger baits? Well, Jason, when I use, and this is just me, when I did use stingers, I've never been a big fan of stinger hooks, but when I did use a stinger hook, I always hook mine on the top. A lot of people will hook them out of the mouth and then hook them in the back of their tail on the bottom. I always brought mine over his body and hooked my stinger on the top.
When I fish for big fish and use the stinger, I have done this before, but I typically don't run stingers, but I have done it a handful of times. And I'll take a piece of 80 or 100 pound mono, preferably 100 pound mono, and double crimp it with a chafe guard. And I don't know. I mean,
so back in the day, well, not back, I still do. When I kingfished, I still do kingfish a lot, but earlier in the years, I used to run stinger hooks on the top, like Wes talked about there. And I started listening to a few folks and started running my stinger hooks in the butthole. And I missed far less fish. And it makes easy, good sense, I guess, where the fish is going to attack the bait from the bottom. And so therefore you are going to miss less fish because he's going to get a hook in his mouth. So with that said, why would you in freshwater also put a stinger in the top and not the bottom?
They can swim more natural. Think about it. Could you swim if you had a stinger hook up your asshole?
Yeah. Don't stick it in anything. Just let it dangle. Don't stick it in anything.
But if you put it in the top, it's going to probably throw that hook a lot more frequently than it would in the butthole as well.
Yeah. Or could you not just let it be free, not hook it in the bait at all?
Well,
you could, but then that hook can come back around the main line.
Or then it's just dangling and he's going to hit the fish. And
it's not going to, like a haywire twist for like a king rig, like 90 pound Malin single strand. You put you like a little number 4 treble for a stinger hook, and you haywire twist it. It can't flip back around and hit the main line. Not if you're.
Oh yeah, it can. Yes, sir, it can.
I've never had it happen.
It happened all the damn time.
Daryl Barney,
Barney's got a point there. He's like, if that bait's big enough to where you're worried about the stinger, dangling.
Well, you do in saltwater, Barney, like kingfishing, like Peter does a lot of.
But Daryl Barney's a concrete cowboy. He's catching 2-pound fish on the pitch. When you're pitching little thread fin about that big, don't worry about a stinger hook, Daryl.
Yeah. I mean, I just can't see using them for like a striper or a largemouth or anything like that because they got such big, thick cartilage in their mouth. I mean, you don't have to worry about pulling a hook. And how often do they? I do realize they short strike, but
your kingfish rigs come with a stinger hook. It's set up for a stinger hook.
If I feel like if fish are short striking, you can catch them. You can just keep putting a bait out there. So you're going to get him.
People talk about short striking. When a fish short strikes, what's he doing, JR?
He's coming up and only taking part of the bait. He's not taking the hook and everything.
Why is he doing it? Don't tell him, Pete. Why is he doing it?
Why is he doing it? Well, it could be that it's some type of reaction strike, trying to just kill the bait for the hell of it. It might not be like a hunger thing. He's not like getting a good enough look at the fish and deciding, hey, I'm hungry, I'm going to eat that. So he's just testing
99% of the time, they want to kill something. They don't want to eat it. They just want to fucking kill it, even if they're not hungry. Yep. It's irritating them. They just want to kill it. That's why they're short striking. They're just trying to kill it. They don't want to eat it. 99% of the time.
Yep, I agree.
Remember that, Grasshopper.
Okay, I will.
He ain't got to worry
That's
about that shit catfishing, you know.
Good little piece of knowledge there.
Damn.
Daryl said that you're a party fisherman, Wes. I guess you have been doing a little party fishing.
Well, I have to party fish now. I got Todd Asher broke in 5 years, and Daryl went up there in less than a year and stole him away. Treats him like a fucking king on the boat. Bases, rods,
I just don't understand the whole trophy mentality in the striper industry. That's one thing that, I mean, I could see it in the catfish industry, but I mean, a striper, even the small ones, they're just beautiful. A small catfish is ugly. They're everywhere. They're always a bycatch. They get on your nerves.
You don't understand. Did you see the reaction when Alan caught that fish up there at Chill House? Did you see the reaction? The reaction when you and Lacey caught that big fish? Y'all damn sure don't react like that when you catch a 3-pound striper.
Well, I never fell in love with the sport of just catfishing. I fell in love with trophy catfishing. So I never liked catfishing before I became a trophy catfisherman. So I can understand someone like that. But striper fishermen, they tend to fall in love with their sport, their species, striper. They fall in love with that sport from catching small ones just every time. Every single time, most 99.9% of the time, if you fall in love with striper fish, you become a huge striper fishing fanatic.
Yeah.
The first striper you ever caught wasn't a monster; it was small.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't happen in catfishing. Most of your catfish guys started out their passion sparked and ignited initially with catching a big catfish, not a small
one. All right, we got a question. Daryl Barney wants to know what the F is a trophy catfish. He said there's no such thing.
It's kind of
fish rag, no matter what.
It's kind of rhetorical. He's trying to be like Scott Perry.
Oh yeah,
you guys are biting.
No, he's trying to be like Todd Asher. You know, and what gets me is I'm surprised that he just kicked poor Anthony Johnson and Doug Cole to the curb. Here we go.
Well, it's springtime, Wes.
Yeah.
Nothing counts in the spring. Everything's for free for all. You can't be held accountable for anything you do in the springtime.
Springtime is the easy button, no matter what kind of fishing you do.
Yeah. Huh? Some people are better at hitting that easy button than others, though. You notice that?
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, some people are better than others at hitting the easy button. Sometimes people be struggling, in the peak spring.
You're right. They actually do.
What is let's define something here, because I hear that fucking phrase all the time.
What's that?
What is the easy button? Is it easy?
Springtime.
Let me ask you, is it easy?
Shallow water fishing.
People say Tennessee's the easy button. Is it easy?
Because there's a crap load of awesome shallow water fishing in Tennessee.
No, but I'm saying
that's why it's
in my regards. Okay, is this the easy button? Okay,
but everywhere's the easy button.
Let me finish.
Go ahead.
Now.
I'm sorry, Wes. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
In regards to the easy button, okay, I have to make a fucking trip all the way to Brevard, North Carolina, which is about an hour, almost an hour and 50 minutes from my house. Okay, I have to drag a 50-gallon bait tank up there. I have to spend $225 for bait. Then I have to bring this bait back home, and I have to babysit this bait the whole time I have it, especially in the summertime, keeping ice on it, keeping oxygen on it. Then I have to hook a boat up, and I have to drag that son of a bitch all the way through a gorge, 5 hours to Middle Tennessee. Okay, then I'm spending $100 in fuel, hundreds of dollars in a motel room, hundreds of dollars just to eat if I stay up there 4 or 5 days. Okay, to go up there and try to catch a few fish. So what the fuck is easy about that? Well, somebody explain this to me. What's easy about this?
Wes, when are you most likely to catch a big striper? When are you most likely to catch a big crappie? When are you most likely to catch a big catfish?
Springtime.
Easy button. There you go.
Springtime.
There's your answer right there. You just answered it.
Here's your answer, Wes. They're trolling you. It's a troll tactic. It's in the fish. It's ingrained in us, and
I'll be right back.
Yeah, people have no choice. You're gonna get trolled. Period.
For example, me crappie fishing right now, that is the absolute easy button, and sadly, some folks in the High Rock and Baden can't fucking catch a crappie, and I'm out there in 2 or 3 spots, hit 25, 35, 45 fish in an hour, 2 hours, and that's easy button because I'm fishing in 3 to 5 foot of water. Whereas anywhere
Yeah.
else, you'd be in open water fishing, brush, and
The
drop
easy
off
button doesn't necessarily
points.
mean it's easy.
True, yeah, but you just got it's all basically local knowledge. Put it that way. It's easy yet local knowledge.
Mhm.
Daryl,
That
I ain't
local
gonna argue
knowledge.
with that. I ain't gonna argue with you on that. I haven't, but I'm not really purposely driving Tennessee to catch a striper. I mean, if I'm gonna drive 4 hours, I'm gonna drive 4 hours to the beach and catch something that probably pulls a little harder than that.
Yeah, because there's good fishing at the beach in the springtime too.
Yep.
What's good down there like right now? Like black drum, flounder.
I was supposed to go tomorrow actually, but I kind of canceled that due to we talked about that earlier. But I mean, it's everything really. Wahoo, tuna, kings are starting to show up. I'm not gonna drive down there for king this time of year.
I mean, inshore.
Inshore, Spanish, cobia is a big thing right now. It's starting to show up.
Awesome.
Give it about another. So normally the last week of April, the first week of May, that's when the beach bite really fires off. So rumor had it that the first schools of pogies showed up on the beach today. So
Ooh, there's your fishing report, guys. Heck
there we go.
Man, I caught a cobia out at Merle's Inlet one time. Just had a balloon, just blew a balloon up, tied it to the line. I might have had it rigged on a bobber stop. I can't remember, but I had it. I set the depth. I don't even remember, maybe 10 feet. And I saw the cobia. I don't have a tower or anything on my boat, but I actually could see the cobia. They were around this, I think it was the 3 Mile buoy.
Wow.
And you could see them every once in a while, even in my boat, just on the deck, just way down on the water. You could still see them every once in a while. That's how thick they were in there. And you had all these sport fishers and these other center consoles, twin motor center consoles, out there circling. Everybody was trolling. Not one person was anchored. Well, I didn't know all these people were there when I initially showed up. I don't think they were. I think they were everybody was kind of spread out in that area. And I was like, well, heck, I'm going to anchor right here, put a balloon rig out. I mean, that seems like the way to do this. So that's what I did. And I immediately hooked up. And that's when I looked around and it's like people were trolling right beside of me and stuff. I was like, oh my God, I must have just got lucky and got on a big school right there.
Answer a few questions here real quick. Spivey, yep, I am tan as an MF. I've been fishing about every day with the exception of yesterday. Yeah, it's been quite busy, man. Barney, man, give me a call. I'll come to Tennessee with you one day. Let me know. We're still going to talk here about Cherokee. And yes, Dustin, I am coming to Cherokee. Yes, I'm going.
SBC. When is that, Pete?
First time, but I'll give it a try. I ain't scared.
Cherokee's it's like I think it's a clearer lake.
Damn, Daryl Barney, now you're trying to get my other buddy, Pete Malin. Fuck, you already got caught after. He ain't good enough. I mean, what the fuck?
Is that a blueback herring lake, Pete? Cherokee?
I know nothing about Cherokee.
No, Cherokee does not have no herring in it. Alewives.
Okay. Well, that's in the herring family.
It is, yeah, same thing. Almost same thing.
So, like that has I think it has hybrids and stripers stocked in it.
Cherokee does.
Yeah.
I don't know what stock there. I know there's some Cherokee. I think they stock with hybrid, but they are striper there.
If they're striper, they're stocked.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
I don't know what they're stocking now. They have been stocked before. I don't think they put a lot of fish in Cherokee, from my understanding. I don't know.
I don't know. I would ask Barney. Do you know? Yes, no. You seem like you know a lot more about Tennessee than your average person there. They're good numbers in Cherokee.
Yes, Daryl. I got this from Woodstock.
And yes, Daryl, I'm going to be if I come to Tennessee this year, I doubt I'm going to come to Middle Tennessee, depending on what Cheyenne, Upton, and them's doing. I may go up there with them. I don't know, but if I don't, I'm definitely going to try to come to 61 this summer. I want to pull some of the biggest trout I can find up there, just to see what happens. And up there, you're really a hero or you're really a zero. You talking about some clear water, Pete? You can get up there, dude, in 5 or 6, 7 foot of water. And it looks like you're in a foot of water.
We're in Cherokee?
No, on the Clinch.
Oh,
it's just And you know what's crazy about the striper up there? And I've always heard this: if you can see them, they won't bite. When they get in that water where they can see you can see them, they'll swim around your boat. I've seen them up there. I've seen them twice do that. I've seen 3 fish together, well over 40 pounds, swimming around. If you can see them, they will not bite.
I think it's that way with a lot of fish.
Yeah.
If you was largemouth fishing and you seen largemouth, if you can see them, they can see you.
Be interested in seeing how we do out there. I mean, I ain't scared to pull artificial. I'll definitely give it my best effort, no doubt. Yeah, I'll give you a call, Daryl, for sure. One guy I'm going with, he knows a little bit about Cherokee, but we are also considering possibly cut baiting out there. They're running water, finding a place out there to cut bait because it's the right time of year for that. So we'll see.
There you go.
Now, when's that tournament?
It is it's in 2 weeks, 2 Saturdays.
Well, I'm still going to get that hook up for you. I ain't forgot about you.
Pete, you could just go down to like 6-pound fluorocarbon and like a number 2 circle hook.
Yeah.
Y'all, nobody will ever convince me I don't give a damn. They can do videos and take pictures. Nobody will ever convince me that fluorocarbon is better than mono. That fish are scared of mono, but they're not fluorocarbon. I don't believe that.
Yeah. Scott brought up a good point. I got to research that. If there are hook limits on A rigs in Tennessee, I didn't think about that.
They are.
I'm
3.
putting 2 and 2 together. So it's I'm glad you said something about that, Scott.
Most guys will take those top 2. They'll replace them with. What do they replace them with?
I can just cut the hook off. I mean, it's no biggie.
I think the what do you call the little coils that you screw the soft plastic on, like a shaky head? That might be what they do. Cut the hooks off those and screw them on the shaky head.
Gotcha. I ain't afraid to cut the hooks
Hey,
off.
Pete, now you got to realize Daryl's inviting you to Tennessee. If something comes up and he needs somebody to do something for him that you can't do, your ass will be sitting on the bank on a bucket.
Damn, I heard that story already.
So I just want to go ahead and let you know. So don't be surprised if he puts your ass on the bank.
We'll be all right.
They don't ever hit those top 2 hooks anyways, do they?
It's luck of the draw a lot of times. But, yeah.
Hey,
I'm gonna put all striper shit away. I got to bring it all back out.
Hey, Daryl Barney. I'm gonna send you an invite if you want to come on here so I can talk
Barney.
to you.
Snicker said that Mahi will look at your hook. They will look at you and bite the hook. I think that's true, man. Mahi God, that's a dumb fish.
They're dumb until they don't bite your hook. Now you're like, oh, they're the fucking smartest sons of bitches ever.
They kind of remind me of like white perch. They're just there's a crap load of them.
Yeah.
And they just bite.
And they taste good.
Throw a
All right,
screwdriver.
Daryl Barney, check your messenger.
One of the best eating fish there is.
Thomas Walker wants to know where he can get a Danco Venturi. Where can he order one? I think Thomas lives in Seneca. He lives up around Kiwi on the upper end of Hartwell, between the upper end of Hartwell and Kiwi. He lives in Seneca, but I don't know that area that well, so I don't know.
I'm gonna ask a dumb question, Wes. So a Danco, is that a brand of a Venturi? Is a Danco and a Venturi the same thing? Or?
Yes, sir. They just call it the Danco Venturi.
Well, if Danco is the brand, then you ought to just be able to go to their website and order one. They probably got a website.
I think what's his name? Got nobody likes when they call Big Al
Ryan Spivey said bottom dwellers.
Sean McNew. I think Sean McNew used to sell them on his website, and Chris Hovis could probably get them. I'm sure Hovis would probably know where to get them.
What is Sean McNew's website called? Striper Soup?
Striper Soup.
Okay, there you go.
All right, Daryl Barney, check your messenger.
Little shout out. He gave a really good review of the Shad Shack back in the day. You check that out on YouTube. Sean McNew. Gave a very comprehensive review.
there was a lot of those tanks leaked. You know, I think Chris, if he would have stayed with it longer,
Barney said
I got it welded down.
that JR's got to send the.
I'm on it.
Gotcha.
But that tank I've got in my boat, I've used it a couple of times. I ain't got no issues with it yet. I forgot the whole deal with that tank. From my understanding, Chris couldn't get in it to weld it. So, for whatever reason, he sent it to Shane Howington, or Shane went and picked it up. He may have mailed it to him. I'm not sure. But anyway, Shane welded it, and Chris told him he could keep it if he could get it welded. Shane got it and kept it for a while and gave it to me. That's about the story I know about that tank. Hey, JR, Daryl said he tried to join. You sent him an invite. I sent him one.
I sent him one.
Okay. But in fact, I was looking at my Danco today, and there's a little sticker on it that says Danco Venturi, let them live.
Okay. And explain what that Danco does, Wes.
Well, the
Doesn't
way
it
it's
put like
designed,
smaller aeration?
well, my understanding is the way it's designed, it's got a little intake pump, a little intake valve, that goes out to the outside of the tank. So while the pump's pumping the water by it, it's actually pulling water. The force from where the water from the pump is
You mean
is
air?
pumping. Yeah, and it's pulling air. It's putting oxygen from the outside in with your tank. And that's where you're getting your bubbles.
So it's a air injection system.
Pretty much. Scott could probably explain it better. It just sucks air. There again, Scott said he was going to watch a movie, but he's been watching that. So we're better than the movie tonight anyway. So, hey.
You are the movie.
I knew we got on the subject of bait. I knew Scott Perry would be chiming in.
Well, Scott learned a lot from Sean McNew, too. I mean, they all used to be buddies. Scott said he learned most of what he knows about bait from Sean.
Hey.
There he is.
How's that?
There he is. What's up,
Oh,
Daryl?
hell.
What's happening, bros?
What's up?
Well water versus lake water.
Well water.
So, for everybody who's wanting to go to Tennessee, I'll tell you now to go try it. Give it a good
Right now,
shot.
it's the time to go, ain't it? Or is it tough
No.
right now?
It's tough as shit.
It's tough right now.
What's the water temp up there?
Well, I mean, on the clinch, it's 65 today, and the highest I ever seen it was 67. So,
Is it tough? Not moving water, or is it just tough?
They're not
because-
moving nothing.
they're literally moving no water anywhere.
That's why. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, Darryl, let me ask you this, and I've asked people this before, and this is a serious question. Where do those fish go when they're not pulling water? Do they just go deep and get in where oxygen is better oxygenated water when the water is not moving?
This is no joke, Wes. I ran $84 worth of gas out on last Friday. Me and Anthony, he'd probably be pissed if I told this, but we looked for fish up and down the clinch, back and forth, every place on earth that we could even think of there being a fish, and never marked any fish. I graphed the whole place. So I'm assuming the lake. I don't know. I talked to Todd about it, but we never found fish. Literally from, and you know what I'm talking about, from the warning side in, which is 300 yards.
Yeah.
There is bait at every dam. Watts Bar, Loudon, and Melton Hill. You can walk on top of, and there's
Not a
no
fish
fish
around.
in them. Not a single fish.
That's really not good.
So
Could
they're
they be
Well,
feeding
you
on
know,
something
though.
else?
You know, there's an old saying.
They're running 600 at. And when I say 600, I mean 600 gallon in a day at one dam, and 6,000 at Loudon and at Watts Bar, which is literally like you and I pissing in it.
Well, you know, there's an old saying. Have you ever heard this saying, Darryl? When it's hard to find bait, when there's no bait, the fish are biting, and when the bait's plentiful, the fish ain't biting.
Could they
Well,
be
I
feeding
mean-
on something else? Something, because I've known fish that there'll be a crap load of bait somewhere and they'll be out feeding on crawdads because I guess they like crawdads better or whatever. So could they be somewhere feeding on another bait fish, another type of bait fish? Or are they holding tight to structure? You know,
So I don't know Tennessee. All right, I'm gonna add my input in this. I don't know Tennessee, but I walked outside my house yesterday, and I looked up in that dang sky about 5 a.m. this morning,
Hey,
and that
baby,
moon was not
you
existent.
make my
So
sandwiches
you
for
think it
tomorrow?
might be the moon phase?
Oh, all right.
Well, actually, Peter, we talked about this, and being Asher, who knows, and he'd probably be mad if I told this, but we're thinking up on the lake, and it's the LY die-off. So if you think about all the stories you've ever heard about walleye, smallmouth, striper on the LY die-off, that's where we're headed.
No. Gotcha.
not enough. What? Why? Because the lack of oxygen from them running water.
No. LY there's a bite that happens every year, JR, for maybe a month from where the LY run up on the banks and die.
Okay.
It's always an unbelievable catch, but that happens at night. It happens up on Norris. It happens on Cherokee. Every lake there is, and it's just they feed
I think
up
they're
so
spawning.
much. It's almost like the full moon effect, where they feed all night long, and then they just feed all night, and they just don't eat.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
But the crazy thing is where we normally see fish this time of year in Tennessee, I can't even mark a fish.
Well, when you're seeing them this time, they're normally running water, though, right?
Oh yeah, I mean so what happened this year, and this is just my opinion, is there was so much water came in, like in the last month. Tennessee had to cut the water off for the last month because they have to. The TVA has that commitment to the lake drawdown. They've never been able to make that commitment, so for the last month they had to run water. Like 3 weeks ago, I fished the floodgates. Y'all probably all see them if you watch my Facebook. I mean, that's just was odd to have floodgates on at that time. Well, because of that, now they're holding all the water because it's over, but they ran all the water through, if you understand what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So all the water came through, and now if the rain don't come, we don't have any water to run through.
Well, I got a question.
The TVA's going to run those generators if they have any water to do it with, right? Because that's power. They don't give a damn whether we're fishing or not. They're trying to make money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got a question. I know there again, I don't know. I don't follow Billy Davis. I don't know what he's doing, but I know for the last 3 weeks, Bryson Roberts has caught some huge fish. How could he? Why is him and Billy find them and nobody else is?
Well,
he's on fish. I mean,
I wonder if these fish. Now I realize there's not any current really because they're not running any water, and stripers like current. So when they shut the water off, you think that they're not going to be up there because there's no current. Because why would they be up there swimming around if the bait's not coming to them because the water's on, right? And stripers want to be moving, but is that water up there so cool and oxygenated this time of year that those stripers could actually wade and be still?
Well, you got to realize, JR, I know I'm a concrete cowboy, but I haven't fished the friggin' concrete in any amount of time in 2 years. So we're not talking about the concrete. We're talking about the river.
Yeah, I am too, but I'm talking about, 3-4 miles down the river from the concrete. Yeah. And even in that situation, if they're not running water, you're not marking any fish, you're like, they're gone. But could you go up to, say, like brush piles or holes and, use this modern day sonar like you guys have, with the 360 imaging and the live scope and all that stuff? Are you guys sure that these stripers aren't up there holding tight to structure in a ditch, in a hole, in some brush, and you just can't see them on your sonar because you don't know what to look for?
Well, I'll be honest. I think that the stripers are there, and I think they are holding tight. I think you're up to something, and I think the only stripers I've caught in 3 weeks were in the woods, just like Scott Perry I saw on here was talking about. I saw him log on, but anyway, you know how they catch them in Russell and what they call the forest or the wilderness or whatever. I literally think that's where these fish have gone.
The only thing I can think of, again, I'm not familiar with the lakes down there, the rivers, but I've seen this kind of sort of in Mountain Island Lake back in the day when there was a striper there. But a lot of times they would be so tight to the bottom that you could not mark them. I mean, like literally stuck on the dang bottom with no moving water whatsoever.
Yeah, and not only the bottom, but they
maybe-
could be
think that
they
maybe
could be
they're on the
stuck.
bottom.
They could be stuck on a ledge so close that you can't see them, or in some brush so close. Anything that can hide them, any shadow.
It's like crappie, for example. A lot of times you can't mark them unless you see them just come up off the bottom a little bit, But
Right.
they can be just sitting so tight in the bottom to where their bellies are muddy,
So let me ask all three of you guys this: with that being if that were the case, what about changing up your tactic and actually breaking out your 7-foot heavy action spinning rod with your big soft plastic, I don't know, white fluke on a 1/2 ounce jig head, or however you want to rig it, whatever you want to do, and actually going and trying to mark these fish and actually trying to cast down, because you're going to mark you're probably going to mark largemouth, you're probably going to mark white bass up there, you're probably going to freshwater drum, you're going to probably mark several species. You're not going to know it's striper until you actually start going and actually throwing on this structure and see if you can't hook one of these fish on artificials, casting to them.
If they're not active, they're not active. Plain and simple. If they're tucked to the bottom, they're not active. They probably won't bite a damn thing.
Now, when you got in that hybrid tournament, Peter, you were out. Those fish weren't active. Nobody was catching fish. We all knew where the fish were. Most of us did. Most of us fished where the majority of the fish were, and you continued. You stayed on them. You stayed on. You didn't, just because they weren't biting.
There's
you didn't
a difference between active and not active, right? Like, for example, on Lake Norman, when them fish drop to 50, 60, 70, 80 foot deep, you ain't gonna catch them. I'm not gonna catch them. But even though they're not active, they're on the surface layer, anywhere from 5 to 15 foot deep. And those fish are still catchable some way, shape, or form. So in that case, what you speak of right there were still some fish up high, not active, but yet they're up there. But when they drop down to those bottom levels, I guess, no matter what you do, you can't even snag them practically. I mean, they're shut down and they won't even sniff anything.
You know what? I was going to try it in Tennessee, and every time I get up there, I forget to bring it. But instead of, how we cut bait, we get up on shoals and cut bait. I've always wanted to pull a Santee rig or drift a Santee rig and pull it over shoals. You know how they bump the bottom, and do that with a striper, just to see if it would work with a piece of cut bait.
I would like that too, with a good bumping rod.
Yeah,
it's an awesome way, but you're gonna catch catfish, Wes.
I'm talking. I wonder if it would work for striper.
You're gonna catch catfish. So to answer your question, Wes, earlier about Billy Davis and Bryson, is Bryson and Billy fish 7 days a week? You see 3 fish of theirs from 7 days of fishing hard as shit with skipjack. So they do find a few. I'm not taking away from either one of the guys. Me and Billy, whatever. I like Bryson, but I'm telling you, Bryson catches some nice fish. But they are fishing their ass off right now for those few fish. And they may be catching 20 a day. I don't really know that, but they would be putting 20 a day on there. That's just 7 days a week of posting 3 fish. You got to realize that's, you see 3 fish, and you got 60 hours. You got 60 hours of fishing in. I mean, I put my time in. I'm not saying no bullshit. I fish 3 days hard every week, and I'm just telling you, it's freaking tough. There's no easy button there right now. There's no easy button in Middle Tennessee.
I feel your pain, man. I feel your pain. I mean,
you and I have buddies who's going to Middle Tennessee next week. We'll see how they do. I hope it turns on and they freaking murder them.
Yeah, because they're going to be driving about 1,000 miles.
I was so excited to see 30 days of Anthony Johnson. I'm not trying to suck his blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, literally after 2 or 3 years, I wanted to see what he came out of there after 30 days. You know what he came out of there with? A 48, a 43, and a bunch of 40s that, not what we all thought of. It's like, it's tough. It's freaking, I talked to 2 old guys in the river up under Clinch River, and they literally told me that there was years, this was like 2 years ago. They said they went down the river in the Clinch and jigged every year. They said that 40-foot water, Wes, I know you know where I'm talking about. If you just keep running, you're running that deep water. They said, when we catch fish down there on spoons early in the spring, it'll be an awesome year. If they aren't there, you'll just have the worst year you ever had. And that's too, like, I'm telling you, these guys was like 75 years old that I saw in a corner crappie fishing in one of those ponds. I guarantee you these guys knew what they were talking about.
Absolutely, they did. Yeah.
And that they just said, there's off years up here. That was 3 years ago. They said it's an off year, and guess
And it
what?
doesn't
That whole
help
year-
that the
that whole
water's so
year
clear.
sucked. That whole year sucked. I mean, I've downsized, and to your point, JR, I downsized all my ship to 17-pound and 12-pound liters over the weekend.
Yeah, like when they're not running water, that water clears up. If they're not running water, you think it's clear when they're running water. You let them shut the water off for a few days, and look how clear that water is.
So in July and August, the warmest water I've ever saw in the Clinch, and Wes will verify this, is 70 degrees ever. It's like 66 degrees today up there. And that's
It's that hot.
I've never saw it. I've never saw that in my life. But you would think, well, the fish are all moved up. They're at the dam and back between West Ozark, the first and second island. Those
So what
fish
you're saying
aren't
is the
there.
water's warming up because they're not running any water.
They're generating nothing for the past month.
JR, when that water
And that's
come
causing
off
the water
north,
temp to rise.
So
that water's
They
coming
pull it
of
all off
north.
the bottom, JR.
So one thing that I've learned in our neck of the woods here is, when we get these years, like what we'll call drought springs, when they're not running water, these fish will do their false spawns on like main lake points. That might be something to kind of look at. Main lake points, secondary points in some of these creeks, and they won't make that dang river run.
Exactly.
That might be something that you might want to take a peek at, possibly. Now, I don't know how big of a river or system you're talking about there, but if there's no constant flow, they're not running up that river. So they're going to be spawning, doing their little false spawns on points. And, just mainly points pretty much.
I truly think, Peter, you're up to something, because I don't think the fish ever come out of the lake yet this year.
Yeah.
I mean, I relate to water temperature. So I always go, well, when it gets here, I've caught fish, and I'm all on historical data and keeping, a mental journal or an actual journal. When this gets here, I catch fish here, I catch fish here. And all that's been thrown out the window this year because, I'm looking at water temps that should be end of June or July, and it's freaking April. So the fish don't relate to that. They don't give a damn what.
How is the historical data? Like, what was the water temp, say, 2018, April the 18th? What was the water temp on that?
In the mid 50s. I would be literally now. I'd be looking for 57-degree water. Would be
so there's your answer to your question.
The last time I fished 61, which was about 2.5 years ago in July,
I was with
that
you.
morning I put the boat in, that water was 56 degrees, and the hottest it got was 58 degrees at 4 o'clock that afternoon. And
Yeah,
it was
see,
like
those
100
variables
degrees
make
outside.
it really hard when you're taking notes and you say the fish were here on this date, this
Do you
time.
think
this
that
moon
one
phase.
good rainstorm, because we know Tennessee is known for getting a dumping of rain at some point. It's going to happen. You think one good rainstorm is going to change everything?
No.
Yeah. Might get a storm that dumps 3, 4, 5 inches of rain, and now they got to run water. You think that will change everything?
Then
It's going to be a combination. If they ever get enough rain, Peter, to run the floodgates, the fish come. And when I say they come, not just in the floodgates, but they'll be 3 miles down, right?
Uh-huh.
You'll have fish throughout that system. That will draw those fish in, and I think they're at the lake. It doesn't make any sense, but if the floodgates are on in Tennessee, you have to fish the gates. It doesn't matter, whatever.
When they have a lot of rainfall, like you're talking about Tennessee, though, Pete, like major amounts of rainfall, they can run them fucking gates all day long. I don't think you're going to catch fish yet. It muddies the water up. It changes the salinity of it. They still won't bite after hard rain.
Mm-hmm.
I've never caught them.
Some flow, though, is better than no
storm.
flow.
Huh?
So I'd say some flow is better than no flow, though, regardless.
Yeah, but when you
there is a line for
like
too
that,
much rain.
I've only seen them any muddy water, but like once or twice in the 5 years I've been going. There's no such thing. It's not like the Yak and Chain, Pete. No muddy water comes. What we call muddy water in Tennessee is like what you and I would call
a good day of high rock
as a decent color. You know what I mean? It really is a difference. It's
you ain't never seen muddy in Tennessee, Daryl?
Only on the Clinch one time in 5 years. Where else?
Dude, I've seen Loudon. Look like a fucking mud hole.
Oh,
the whole way.
I
I
don't
think
doubt
he's.
that.
I
but
think
I'm
what
just
he's
telling you,
saying is
I
he
haven't in
hasn't.
5 years.
No.
So.
Now I haven't. I've never seen my favorite creek up on the upper end allowed, and I don't think I've ever seen that muddy.
I hate to say it, but if it's that tough come in a couple weeks in Cherokee, that might also work to my advantage possibly. I don't know.
So all of the bait fish that are up at the dam that you can walk on their backs, how you said they were so thick, what are they? Are they gizzard shad?
No, they're all thread fin, JR. They're like 1 to 2 inch.
Okay.
Well,
Well, those fish are off there. I bet you those fish are feeding on something else on down the lake.
But yeah, Jay, and there again, Daryl, like Middle Tennessee, me and Drew Rankin was talking about this years ago. Me and Scott talked about it. Just like Pete said, I just don't believe all those fish, especially now, are swimming up all the way like they used to.
Hey, Daryl, I think you moved a little too far away from your Wi-Fi. Wes. I think Daryl moved a little too far away from his Wi-Fi. He's got some. Y'all don't hear that? He's gone.
It's not just me, but me especially. I've been getting my ass kicked. I mean, I've caught some fish up there, but it's just not the typical. It's definitely not
I know water. I know water, mainly water temperature, really dictates the spawn. But there again, like last year, Middle Tennessee, those fish it was so like they had all that rain. The water was just literally blistering cold. Me and Bobby Parker fished it hard for 4 days. And the last day, we were putting our boat in there at Carthage. And all of a sudden, hundreds and hundreds of striper just boil up. And that's the first time I've ever seen that. Those males was hitting them females. And man, I was so excited. I'm out there trying to pitch trout to them, throwing us. And Bryson Roberts was watching the video. He said, Wes, you can throw that fucking trout till your arm falls off. He said, them so much ain't interested in biting nothing. So there again, like Pete said, I think a lot of those fish now, when it's time for them eggs to come, I don't give a fuck what the water temperature is. They're gonna go to the nearest bank, the nearest shoal, drop them and go on about their business. I just don't think those fish are swimming all the way up like they did years ago. That's my opinion on it.
Peter will know this as good as I do. On the Yadkin, if it ever gets muddy or anything goes wrong, those fish don't always come up. I fish high rock. I've been fishing, not trying to sound like an expert, but I've been fishing. If it gets muddy or if it stays too low, those fish will go in the nearest creek. It doesn't matter make a dam whether they're on High Rock Lake or the first creek into the Yadkin River or whatever. Those fish, that's where they go to spawn. And I think that's what's happened now. I don't think those fish are holding up to come up that river. I think they've gone somewhere else. And I think it's on the lake, like I said.
Hey, Daryl.
I mean, that's just
Daryl, do you know how to exit and come back in? Daryl.
Yeah.
You're lagging really, really bad and breaking up. Go out and come back in. There you go.
But there again, about the time we think we got something figured out, it will change.
Yeah, never fails. Yeah, when you're onto something, boom, something happens and everything changes.
Well, I don't know that the Tennessee bait migrations all that well, but I mean, Tennessee, he said that there were tiny thread fins up at the dam, like you could walk on their backs that were so thick. So they're obviously not interested in the thread fins. So I know the herring family, they'll be moving upriver to spawn with the stripers, and that's what they're chasing up on points. Wes, when you said they were out there spawning the females, knocking the eggs out of the females.
No, they were right in the middle of the river channel, right in the middle. You know where the Carthage boat ramp is? Dead middle, right there.
Well, what time of year was it?
April.
Yeah, so they were that would be considered upriver on that river system. That would be considered upriver. So
but
they were going up there to spawn.
There. The 4 days we were up there, I know of one fish that was caught over 30 pounds out of about 30 boats. Nobody was catching fish, not even up in the Caney. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, why wasn't these fish biting? What did they do? Swim all the way up and then just decide to get here and then spawn the next day or spawn that day?
Yeah.
Where did they go?
If you could find out what they're feeding on, you're going to find them. So what I'm getting at is if the stripers aren't where you think they should be, like Daryl's situation in Tennessee right now, then the bait fish that they're feeding on right now, I bet they're not up there either. So find out where they are and you'll find the stripers. If it's herring and they're mid-lake or halfway up the backs of creeks, then that's where the stripers are going to be.
Well, like I said, everybody talks about that Tennessee easy button. I'll push any easy button I can. Like I say, if I'm going fishing and I got good info, I don't mind asking somebody, hey, you got a report, where you catching them at, what area, like, you don't have to give me a damn pin, or what are they biting, or, when I go fishing, I'm spending a lot of fucking money to go fishing. I want to go and catch fish. So if there's a such thing as the easy button, and I've been saying this for years, I'll push it. I'll push that son of a bitch till you wear it out. And you're an idiot if you wouldn't, am I right, Pete?
Yeah.
I don't think the easy button isn't necessarily mean it's easy.
I don't think there's no such thing as an easy button. The easy button is if you get on somebody else's boat and go catch a bunch of fish, and then when you get done, you get off of their boat and take your ass home, and you don't have no responsibility. That's easy.
Damn right.
Well, if you were to go in the wintertime.
Is that better, JR?
There he is.
If you were to go in the wintertime, Wes, do you think you'd be more likely to catch good fish in the winter when the water temp is, say, 38 degrees? And
38 degrees.
Let's say it's 38 degrees.
I
Let's
ain't
say
never
it's
fished in water that cold.
January. Why not?
I ain't never seen water that cold.
Oh, it gets that cold in Tennessee on all the lakes up there.
Sure it does.
Oh, I said I'm not going fishing.
Why haven't you seen it? Because you don't go when it's 38 degrees.
I probably fished Tennessee more in the winter than I ever did in the summer.
But let me get to my point real quick. I'm gonna get my point really quick. Here we go. So going in April, you're gonna have a better chance of catching a good fish in April versus January when the water temp's 38. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah,
so it's easier than doing it then. So
I've never seen, but then why go to Chesapeake Bay though? Chesapeake Bay's an easy button because that water temperature is 47, 48 degrees. It's colder in the winter and you catch more fish.
I mean, I guess in relation to fishing in the ocean, the fish in the bay would be the easy button.
Yeah. But I've never seen 38 degree. I wouldn't even attempt to put a bait out in 38 fucking degree water.
Well, let's be honest. Chesapeake Bay is the easy button. But I went up there and fished this year and we had success, but it's 7 or 8 fish. Well, 7 or 8 years ago, it was 60 fish. So what's the easy button? But you were catching 20 and 30 pounders.
Now, let me also tell you this, Wes. Just because the water temp's 38 on the surface, it's warmer down in the thermocline in the wintertime. Water stratifies in the winter just like it does the summer. So, you know how in the summertime you'll go and the water temp might be 80 degrees and you drop your bait down to get it in the cooler water or whatever. That's the same thing in the winter.
When the water gets below 45 degrees, all the fucking bait starts dying.
Not if there's that's the surface temp. What if the water is 57, 30 feet down? That's where all the bait fish will be.
Well, then why don't the bait fish have enough sense to go down? Because every time I've ever been to Tennessee, all your shad and your
like gizzard shad, for example, are a shallow water bait fish. They're not a deep water bait fish like a herring. So they can't go down. They don't like that. They hate cold water. They'll be the first ones to go to the backs of creeks and die off.
I've seen gizzard shad so damn thick when it's 38, 37 degree water temperature, and they just sit on the damn bottom. That's all they do.
Hold on, JR. I saw, and Wes will verify this, I saw Joe Asher go to Cherokee, and Peter, this is for you. He would have LY that was the biggest, that's like striper candy. They would die at 30 feet down, and he would fish gizzards at 35 feet and still be kicking to catch fish. Because gizzards will take, now, I ain't talking about water temp, I'm talking about less oxygen.
Let me tell you something about Joe, and I didn't realize this. Me and Lori, we took a trip up to Tennessee one weekend, and I said, baby, I said, you want to go fishing while we're up here? She said, I knew that was coming. She said, yeah, we'll go. She said, you don't have your boat. And I said, no, I'm going to call Todd's daddy. If Joe ain't got a trip, I want to go fishing with Joe. So I called Joe that night, and he said, Wes, he said, I can take y'all in the morning if you want to go. So we went fishing with Joe. And Todd's daddy is Todd's daddy's just a trip, man. He's just funny as shit. So anyway, the moral of this story is we get on the boat and we're fishing with gizzard shad about so big, pretty bait. Well, we were downlining, and Joe's thing was he'd say, "Ooh, there they are," and I'm looking on. I said, "What's Roger?" "Oh no, on the depth finder. There they are on the depth finder." He had my nerves tore all to hell. But anyway, the fish, and this was so weird. This is how big a difference it is. The fish we were marking was like 60, 65 feet deep. Joe was running his baits about 45 foot deep. And I said, "Joe, why don't you just drop the bait on down and get to them?" He said, "The bait won't live." I said, "What?" And I said, "Really?" I said, "Just that much difference." He said, "If I drop that bait down 4 or 5 more foot than what I'm dropping it now, it'll die." And he said, "I'm going to show you something." And what I questioned him, he showed me. He said, "All 4 of these rods, let them down about 10 foot. So he was just sitting there on his depth finder, and I was watching him. He was watching me. I let him down. We sat there for about 2 minutes. He said, "Okay, reel them up." I said, "Well, they ain't that about." He said, "Just reel them up and check them." I reeled them up, and every fucking one of them baits was dead. Just a 10-foot difference in that water quality, every one of them.
Asher's dad?
Yeah.
I can tell
He
you
knew
this.
exactly how deep to fish
sounds
that
like a
bait.
very smart man.
He knew exactly how deep to fish that bait. And he said, "Wes," he said, "I can put it down there to them." But he said, "It'll be dead by the time it gets down there and they won't touch it. We just got to hope that they'll come up and
100%.
bite it."
JR, he blew my mind because I know that LY live at 60 feet and will live good. But he was dropping bait up there, and he told me, he said, they quit kicking and twitching, and nothing would touch them. And Todd told me this himself. He said he was fishing small gizzard. This is back like last fall. He said he would drop them down. They would still kick and catch fish. And, I mean, let's face, I mean, I'm gonna say this, and nothing to take away from Joe. Joe is a bait wizard and a fishing, like, just genius on Cherokee and all that. But he got all that from Todd. I mean, Todd turned his stuff over to him. It's kind of like the opposite.
Now, who are we talking about? Joe?
Yeah,
Todd
Joe is Todd's dad.
Okay.
Todd learned from Joe, but then Joe had to learn from Todd.
I got you. Yeah.
So Todd's dad, Todd Asher's dad, is a retired lifetime firefighter, and that's what he did. I mean, he fished, but he didn't fish for a living. And then he took that over from Todd when Todd.
Yeah. Well, he's not very old, is he? Because Todd's only what, 40?
Well, I mean,
Joe's
in his 60s, but
yeah.
But
So
yeah, I
he's
mean, he's
still getting around real good. He's still kicking ass.
I can tell you this: he's the coolest guy. Wes will tell you this: he's 1,000% is what he is. I'm not trying to sound spiritual, nothing else. He is 1,000% JR, a Christian to the nth degree. I'm not trying to whatever, you know what I mean. You know I talk. I believe in all that, but I'm telling you, he lives what he walks. He walks what he talks. All that, but you never met a nicer guy and a funner guy to fish with. Wes will tell you that. He's just like
Amen.
the coolest guy.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you ought to see him and Todd together. Listen, Todd found him a boat on Facebook, and he talked him into buying it. Todd goes picks the boat up for him, and it took him a week. He wouldn't even give his daddy his boat. He kept his boat for about a week.
Wes, he just now got his boat.
Hey, and listen, when them two get on, have you ever been on a boat with them together, Daryl?
Oh yeah,
dude, I'm telling you, it's like Sanford and Son.
Daryl, you better start lying to him when he asks you the question. You know, you're sticking a dagger in his heart and twisting it right now.
But you literally have to. Joe shows up. We call Todd Lamont. I shouldn't say this. And Fred. Joe shows up in a truck that I'm telling you, he's got over 20-year-old bait buckets in it with nets in it that he's going to cut the weights off of eventually.
He sounds just like me.
He's got 3 ball tires and no fenders on his truck, and he will outfish. And Todd has no hooks and no swivels, and both of them will outfish anybody I've ever met. Any time, any day.
Now, wait a minute. Now, I got 2 nets out there I'm waiting to use the weights on. It's been sitting out there for 5 years. So does that make me a good fisherman too?
Joe literally has bait nets older than you and I, JR.
Hey, when we
he's going to cut the weights off of.
Hey, when we all went to Kentucky, to help the flood victims. Right before we got into Kentucky, Todd called me. He said, "We're going to pull up here at the Hardee's, and I got to get something from his daddy." And Stephanie, I was in my truck, and Stephanie and Todd was behind us, and then Joe met us there. Well, I didn't realize at the time, I didn't know what Joe was driving. So we walked into Hardee's, and I said, "Todd, did you see that regular ass truck I just parked beside with all that fucking junk in it?" And he said, "Shh, that's Daddy's truck." I said, "Are you kidding?" He said, "No." He said, "Daddy don't throw nothing away."
Yeah,
But, hey, listen,
I know guys like that.
Todd said, "Come over here and look at it, Wes, for real." So after we eat breakfast, I walked over there, and Daryl ain't lying, man. He said, "There's nets there that's all knotted up." Now, I asked Joe, I said, "Do you plan on using those? You can't use those nets no more, can you?" He said, "No." He said, "I'm going to get around to cutting the weights off of them one day." And Todd said, "Daddy, that net's been on this truck for 12 years. So, but hey, that man, he is a hell of a fisherman. I mean, Joe and his daddy, Joe and Todd, probably, I'd put them up against anybody fishing in East Tennessee. Anybody, hands down.
Ooh, look, I'm done.
Yep, it's we went over. It's been a great show, guys. We got into a good topic and kind of stayed in it for the majority of the show. That's pretty awesome.
Wait a minute, Daryl's coming back.
I'm trying.
There he is. Hey, Daryl, I'll give you a shout here in a couple days here at some point when I got some downtime. We'll chat a few.
Yeah, man. I told you, man, you got an open boat on my. I would love to see that. This is no junk, whatever. I'm gonna get murdered for this, Peter, but I'd like to see your technique. I would like to see them.
Well, can I? If you
Peter,
you gonna take Pete? You got Pete.
I do, Peter,
Motherfucker, hold on. You got Pete.
Worry about
You got Pete. You got Pete. I'm gonna give you Pete. Can I have Todd back?
No, you can't have Todd.
Daryl's got a infatuation with those dang fucking clothes hangers.
Hey, Wes, is Daryl Dieter Melhorning you? That's what Dieter does to me. He kind of moves in on all my friends.
I'm going to introduce you to Todd Asher, and you'll love him. How
about
that?
What's even worse, though, hell.
All three of us will be besties now. We'll leave Wes fucking alone, huh?
I don't care. That's why Wes bought another fucking boat.
I mean, it'll literally be the Tennessee takeover. I mean, it'll be like North Carolina, because Todd's from Kentucky, and we'll freaking take Tennessee over.
I like it.
That.
And I'll get Joe Asher on my side, and we'll still come catch more fishing, y'all.
Well, you can't get Joe because Joe and Doug are best friends, and I got Doug in my pocket. So,
guys, you know what would be cool, real quick, and I know you're ready to go, Peter, but y'all listen to this really fast. I can totally do this, and it would be so much fun. Is to actually have a tournament, like a TikTok tournament, or even Facebook, YouTube. We could use StreamYard, and we could go live on however many people's boats. Let's say 8 people. We get 8 people to have like a tournament, and we set a tripod up on every boat or a magic clamp, some way to mount your phone.
Hold on, let me stop you right there, Jar. Most of the time, you ain't getting a signal in certain parts of Tennessee, buddy.
Yeah,
live.
that is true.
I always get a signal. I'm in.
Well, I mean, I think it's a great idea because we got StreamYard and we can go live like 8 or 10 people at a time, all on the same screen. So if everybody had a phone on their boat and they could zip tie one of those rechargeable, battery packs, like a 30,000 milliamp hour battery pack, and just zip tie it and plug your phone up to it, it'd last all day. And then you guys could be talking junk to each other while you're fishing. Like you could see, like let's say us 4 were fishing. I could look at Wes and say,
"That's
Wes,
what VHF
what you think about that?" And we could just be talking, and people could actually be seeing this all live. It would be like a freaking watching.
I'll tell you how to do it, JR, and I'll help you buy them. You buy those little ruler tapes like seamsters use. You put a number on them. You send them out to everybody who's participating. You know what number you put on there, so you have to put that on your boat of what you sent us, and that's what we use that day. Nobody
That's
knows
what we
the
did that
number,
tournament
but
in New
whoever
York.
the administrator is. So you do it's like the Billy Davis tournament where you get your own ruler.
There you
Which
go.
wasn't a bad idea.
Yeah.
Now, what are you doing with the ruler? You're measuring the fish.
You buy a 4 or 5 foot seamstress tape. You know what I'm talking about? Like a 1 inch piece of, and you put a number on it, or whoever's administrating the whole thing, you put a number on it. Well, when we catch a fish, we do a live video. Even if you don't have, let's say you don't have signal at that time, you do a video of this fish is 46 inches at this, and here's a video of my tape measure. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Y'all need to get those bump boards that these kayak guys are using. That'd be perfect for that.
Well, I mean,
instead of the tape.
Well,
you know what I'm talking
saying
about? Those
is,
big bump boards that unfold. And
no, but what you got to understand, JR, is you send out the measuring tape, whoever the administrator is, with your number on it.
Okay.
See what I'm saying? Nobody else knows that. Let's say you name me 1006. Well, when I do the video, it says 1006, and I got a 42-inch fish.
Ah, okay.
You follow me?
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, that would be cool. We could keep score and everything.
Are you trying to do like the Bassmasters do, where they can just go live, look at each other's boats?
Well,
yeah,
I mean, even if you didn't have a, let's say like Wes, I know where you're talking about, Wes. You're over there at our hole. You don't have signal, but you send a video of JR, and here's your number, and you just measure it out, a 45-inch fish. Well, guess what? You get to qualify.
I'm in whose hole?
But I mean, I'm gonna tell you, Wes, where you're gonna be at. I'm gonna run over you.
No, I'm not gonna be up there where you and Todd's been going lately at all.
We ain't been up there. It ain't time, baby.
All right, guys.
I'm not talking about there. I'm talking about where y'all been going. I'm not going up there.
We definitely need to revisit this. Okay.
Hey guys, I really enjoyed it. Call me, Peter.
We'll do it. All right,
guys. See you there.
Before we go. Fuck it. Just take JR from me too. Fuck it. Everybody. Get JR too. Go ahead. Get JR. Put that motherfucker on the boat with you. Just hell, you can have all of them.
JR.
I don't want no goddamn catfish on my fucking boat.
JR, be honest. What did I tell you last week or week before last? You're welcome on my boat anytime.
Anytime. Yes, sir. Y'all heard that, didn't you?
You'll never ask for a seat when you don't have one on that big black ass fucking 28-foot piece of shit.
I thought I always had a seat on the boat, but motherfucker set me on the bank in a minute.
That is true. All right, guys, we will definitely get back together.
Damn right, it's true.
Good night, everybody. See you guys.
Good night. We'll see y'all.